Have you ever looked at a map and felt a little chill? Like a spot on the globe that just feels off. A place where the rules of our world seem to bend a little. Where ships and planes can just vanish without a trace. No wreckage, no distress calls, nothing. Just gone. It's a ghost story written on the ocean. And for decades, it has haunted our imagination. Hey there, how's it going? Today, we're diving into one of the creepiest, most legendary mysteries out there. The Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, you know the one. That spooky stretch of water between Bermuda, Florida, and Puerto Rico. It's also called the Devil's Triangle, which is, not exactly a welcoming name. For almost a century, we've heard the stories. Tales of compasses spinning wildly, of strange fogs and electronic failures, of perfectly good vessels sailing into the triangle and never being seen again. So, what is really going on out there? Is it a doorway to another dimension? A playground for aliens? Or is the truth something a little less Hollywood, but maybe even more fascinating? Let's get into it. Legend really took off with one single chilling event, the story of Flight 19. It was December 5th, 1945, just a few months after the end of World War II. 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers took off from a base in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It was a routine training mission. The planes were tough, the pilots were experienced. The weather was clear and calm. It should have been an easy flight, but about an hour and a half into the mission, the control tower received a strange call from the flight leader. He sounded confused, disoriented. He said his compasses weren't working. He couldn't tell which way was west. He thought they were over the Florida Keys, but he wasn't sure. The controllers tried to guide them back, but the radio transmissions became more and more frantic. The pilots were arguing amongst themselves. They were lost. One of the last things the tower heard was a pilot saying, "Everything looks strange, even the ocean." And then, silence. The 5 planes, with 14 men on board, had vanished. But the story gets even weirder. The Navy immediately sent out a rescue plane. A giant Martin Mariner flying boat with a crew of 13. It headed for the last known position of Flight 19. It sent a few routine radio messages, and then it too disappeared. Gone. One of the biggest air and sea searches in history was launched. For days, they scoured the ocean. They found nothing. No oil slicks, no life rafts, no wreckage. It was as if 6 airplanes and 27 men had just been erased from the world. How could that happen? How could 6 military aircraft just disappear on a clear day? This was the story that lit the fuse. And when people started digging, they found more. So many more, like the story of the USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy cargo ship longer than a football field. In 1918, it was sailing from Brazil to Baltimore. It had over 300 people on board. It made a stop in the Caribbean and then sailed into the Triangle. It was never heard from again. It sent no distress signal, nothing. The president at the time, Woodrow Wilson, said, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship." It remains the single largest loss of life in U.S. Navy history not involving combat. And the stories just keep coming. a luxury yacht found drifting and abandoned, a private plane that radioed for landing clearance, and then vanished from radar just a few miles from the runway. It was like a patch of the ocean had a hungry, invisible monster. And of course, when there's a mystery this big, the theories get even bigger. This is the fun part, the what-if part. The most popular theory? Aliens, of course. The idea is that there's a giant underwater alien base deep in the triangle, and they're just collecting specimens, zapping ships and planes out of existence to study us. It's creepy. It's cinematic. It's a classic. Then there's the Atlantis theory. You know, the legendary lost city. The idea is that Atlantis was powered by giant, powerful energy crystals, and when the city sank to the bottom of the ocean, those crystals are still down there. And every now and then, one of them misfires, sending out a huge blast of energy that disrupts time and space and swallows up anything that happens to be passing overhead. I kind of love that one. It's so imaginative. And then there are the time warp theories, that the triangle isn't a place you travel through, but a place you travel out of our time. That these ships and planes aren't destroyed. They're just somewhere else, or somewhen else. Maybe Flight 19 ended up in the age of dinosaurs. It's a wild thought, right? But okay, let's come back down to Earth for a second. What do scientists think? Because when you ask a scientist about the Bermuda Triangle, they usually just sigh. For them, there is no mystery. They have explanations for all of it. And they're actually pretty logical. Let's start with the basics: geography and weather. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. So, just by sheer numbers, more accidents are likely to happen there. It's also a place with incredibly wild and unpredictable weather. The Gulf Stream is a massive, fast-moving river within the ocean. It can create sudden, violent changes in the sea, and the area is famous for producing monster hurricanes. A rogue wave, which can be over 100 feet tall, can swallow a ship whole in seconds. So a lot of the disappearances can probably be chalked up to just really, really bad weather. Then there's the weird magnetic stuff. It's true that the Bermuda Triangle is one of only 2 places on Earth where true north and magnetic north line up. This can, and did, cause confusion for early navigators who weren't prepared for it. A compass that suddenly points to a different north could easily send you hundreds of miles off course. But today, with GPS and modern navigation, it's not really an issue. Okay, but what about the ships that disappeared in calm weather? There's a really cool theory for that. Methane gas. Scientists have discovered vast reserves of frozen methane gas, called methane hydrates, trapped under the seabed in that area. If there's an underwater landslide or a shift in pressure, a huge bubble of this gas could erupt from the ocean floor. This gas-filled water would become much less dense, so a ship sailing over it would instantly lose its buoyancy, and it would sink fast, like dropping a rock in a glass of soda. It would go straight to the bottom, leaving almost no trace. It's a terrifying thought, and it's scientifically plausible. And finally, there's the simplest explanation of all: human error. Let's go back to Flight 19, the tragic, iconic story that started it all. When you look closer at the official Navy report, the story changes a bit. The flight leader, Lieutenant Taylor, had recently been transferred to Florida. He had a history of getting lost. He mistakenly thought his planes were over the Florida Keys when they were actually far out over the Bahamas. He was leading his men in the wrong direction, deeper into the Atlantic. As for the rescue plane that disappeared, that specific model of plane was nicknamed the Flying Gas Tank. It was known to be prone to leaks and explosions. There was a ship in the area that night that reported seeing a huge fireball in the sky, right around the time the rescue plane went missing. So, the great mystery of Flight 19 might just be a tragic story of a confused pilot and a faulty airplane. It's not as exciting as aliens or time warps, but it's human. And a lot of the other famous cases fall apart under scrutiny too. Ships that were supposedly lost in the Triangle actually sank in storms on the other side of the world. Stories get exaggerated, details get changed, and a legend is born. So, is the Bermuda Triangle a real mystery? Or is it just a collection of accidents, bad weather, and good stories? Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. Maybe there isn't a single supernatural explanation. But maybe this part of the world really is just a bit more dangerous. A perfect storm of heavy traffic, weird weather, and strange geology. A place where things can and do go wrong more easily. I think the real reason we love the Bermuda Triangle is that we want to believe. We want to believe that there are still empty spots on the map, places where the world is still wild and mysterious and a little bit scary. In our modern world, where everything is mapped and tracked and explained, it's kind of nice to think there's a place that still keeps its secrets, a place where you can just disappear. And maybe, just maybe, some mysteries are meant to stay unsolved. They're not there for us to figure out. They're just there to remind us that the world is still bigger than we think, and that the ocean is still deeper than we know. And that's a pretty cool thought.